Do you remember walking through the gates of primary school for the first time? You know that feeling when your stomach drops, when you realize the person that's always been there isn't standing next to you anymore. When your mum walked you to the gate, kissed you on your forehead, said she loved you, and just turned around and walked away. If you remember that feeling, you've come to the right place. I'm Danny, and I tell the stories about the moments we thought we'd forgotten. Let me take you back. But before I do, please hit that subscribe button, turn on all notifications so you never miss a memory. Okay, loading today's memory now. It was the night before the big day, and everything was about to change. You were just a kid, playing with your toys, eating dinner like any other night. And then your mum said it. Your first day of school is tomorrow. You need to be in bed early tonight. You didn't understand why. Normally you'd just play until you got tired, sleep when your body said so, but tonight was different. You heard it, but you didn't really hear it. You brushed it off. You didn't believe the experience that was about to follow. But somewhere in that house that night, a uniform was being laid out, pressed and ready, hanging on your bedroom door. For some of us, it wasn't new clothes, it was handed down, all from the op shop. It somehow fit just right, and it made sense now. Why mum and dad took you earlier this week to that shop, tried on school clothes for fitting. You didn't know why at the time. You just stood there, arms out, turning when they said to turn. Now you understood. You didn't think much of it back then. Not knowing, that morning, your world will never be the same again. But before you went to sleep, your dad came into your room. Okay, bud, time for bed. He tucked you in, switched off the light, and you lay there in complete darkness until you slept. Morning came, and at first, it was like any other day, but it was colder than usual. You could feel it. The cool wind through the window before the sun had even risen. But then it hit you. The schedule. Dad getting ready for work. Mum cooking breakfast in the kitchen. But this time it was early. Really early. And suddenly you were following orders. Brush your teeth. Wash your face. Have a shower. Put on clothes that felt completely alien. That uniform. That stiff fabric. The shoes that didn't even bend yet. You looked in the mirror and you didn't even recognize yourself. And if you had an older brother or sister, you would watch them do this before. Leave the house with mum, disappear for hours and come back home with some stories. Now it was your turn and you still didn't understand where they went all that time. But you were about to. Leaving home felt out of place. You got in the car, sitting in the back seat. The cold breeze from outside still on the tips of your skin. And then mum or dad switched on the heater, the warm air filling the car, the first comfort you felt all morning. The engine started, the radio came on, but this time it wasn't kids' songs. It wasn't the music mum or dad usually played for you while you were in the car. It was loud voices, adults talking seriously, like your ears had opened to a world you weren't ready for yet. The trip felt longer than it ever had. Sitting in traffic, watching the streets go by, your little world getting smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. And then, you arrived. Mum parked the car, peeked over her shoulder and said, "Okay son, it's time." You got out of the car and that sinking feeling of your stomach appeared. You held her hand, walking towards the gates. The sounds, the intercom buzzing for the first time, the bell ringing in the distance, kids everywhere, some crying, some running, some standing still like they were waiting for something to happen. You started to cry because you didn't understand why this was happening. Why you had to leave the comfort of your own home. Why we couldn't just stay where we felt safe. And then you reached the gate. Mum bent down, looked you in the eye, gave you a warm smile that you didn't understand until years later. She kissed your head, stood up, turned around and walked away. You were alone. That feeling, we can still feel it now. That fear of abandonment. Watching her get smaller and smaller, wishing she would turn around, but she never did. You wiped your tears, took a breath, and walked through the school gates of primary school for the first time. The first thing you noticed was an unfamiliar face, a teacher waiting just beyond the gate. "Hello, what's your name?" they said. You just looked at them with a nervous look on your face, replied back in a low tone. They directed you to the office and walked inside with you. The office lady asked you to sign in, handed you a sticker with your name on it, like you officially existed in this world now. And the smell, that specific school smell, the same smell you would smell back at home when your mum mopped the floors. You heard the sound of the kettle going off in the office kitchen. Hundreds of kids who walked through the exact same doors that we just did. You left the office and walked down the hallway. That's when you walked by the sick bay for the first time. You saw the red plus symbol on the wall, bandages, things you would typically expect to see in a hospital. And then you saw him, a boy sitting there, a cut on his knee, blood everywhere. It terrified you. You watched the teacher help him, calm, gentle, caring, like it was just another day. But it wasn't just another day for us. We'd never seen a kid injured like that before, not outside of our own home. Everyone was in uniform, everyone looked the same. And somehow, that made us feel even more alone at the time, because we didn't know a single face just yet. You kept walking, bag on your shoulder. Some looked scared like you, and others felt like they had been there their whole lives. You found your locker, you put your bag away, found your desk, sat down and waited. That's when we saw our teacher for the first time. He or she stood at the front, and this felt weird, really weird, because it wasn't mum, it wasn't dad. This was someone else, and we were just supposed to listen to them. You didn't understand why, but you knew you had to. There were toys in the corner, crayons all over the tables, colorful posters on the wall. It looked like a place for kids, but it didn't feel like home. Then came roll call. The teacher read out your name. You didn't answer. You didn't know you had to. Then another kid's name was called, and you heard it. "Yes, sir," with their hand held high. It felt like the military show we watched on TV. You didn't understand why, but you knew you had to follow. When your name was called out again, you answered, learning the names of everyone around you. Some you would remember for years, and others you would forget by lunchtime. And then someone pushed an empty chair next to you. "You can sit next to me." That was it, your first friend. Not because of what they said, but because they noticed you. And then the day really began. Trays of books lined up in the corner in a little bucket. You'd grab one, sit on the mat. Maybe it was Rainbow Fish. Maybe it was The Hungry Caterpillar. Maybe it was Possum Magic. The books were stiff. There were some pages that were torn, but they looked cool. A paint rack sat by the window. You'd paint on a piece of paper and then would place it on the rack, waiting for it to dry, watching the colors blend. And when we really wanted to get messy, remember the paper mache? The newspapers dipped in glue, sticking it on balloons. We all remember the smell of that one glue. We created something from nothing. And how can we forget the Play-Doh? Would roll it, shape it, smash it, and when we wanted to draw, would get the pencil. First time sharpening it, learning to trace letters, numbers, and shapes. Your hand learning how to write. And in our bag, we always had a change of extra clothes, just in case. I still remember the time when the teacher surprised us with an order of pizza. We were all so excited, we gathered around and opened the box. You see, school wasn't just about learning, it was about making moments just like this. Then came something we've never experienced before, assembly. The entire school, all in one place. Hundreds of kids sitting in rows, teachers standing on each side, and a microphone that echoed off every wall. You sat with your class, trying to find a familiar face in the crowd, but everyone looked the same. They talked about events, handed out rewards, said things you didn't quite understand yet, but we felt it, that feeling of being a part of something big. Then they introduced the buddy system. Every new kid would get paired with someone older, someone who knew the ropes, someone who would show us where everything was. Your buddy walked you to the toilets, showed you where the canteen was, pointed out the sick bay where we passed earlier, and for a few minutes, you didn't feel so alone, because someone older was looking out for you. The big kids had the basketball courts. You could see them through the fence, dribbling, shooting, laughing, playing handball. It looked like a different world. Because it was. But you weren't allowed there. Not just yet. You didn't know why. It was just a rule. So you sat on the grass next to the court with the other kids your age just watching. For a moment, we forgot we were scared. We just sat there talking to the kids next to us in our same grade, pointing at the big kids, making up stories about them, trying to figure it out too. The bell rang and suddenly everyone knew where to go, except you. You sat on the concrete with your lunchbox on your lap, watching everyone else run around. Some lunches looked different from the rest. Simple stuff, a Vegemite sandwich, an apple, a packet of chips if you were lucky. And you looked at someone else's spread and thought, wow, they have a lot. A lunch bar, a roll-up, a juice box with a cartoon character on it. Had a bottle of water, a sandwich in a plastic wrap. But here's the thing, the kid next to you didn't care what was in your lunchbox. They just wanted to know if you wanted to play. So we ran back into class. The day felt like it lasted forever. And then the final bell rang. And there they were, Mum or Dad, standing at the gate. The relief. You didn't walk to them. We ran to them faster than you'd ever run before. They picked you up. You buried your face in their shoulder, and for a few seconds, you just breathed. They didn't say, I told you so. They didn't say, was it bad? They said, see son, you did it. And on the drive home, you told them everything about the teacher, about the buddy, about playing in the playground. And they listened, just like they always did. Looking back now, the first day was so much more than we understood at the time. It wasn't just about learning, it was about making friends. It was the first time that we realized that the world didn't revolve around us. That there were kids out there just like us. That's not scary. That's just a part of growing up. It was the first time we heard the radio talk about serious things. The first time that we sat in assembly with hundreds of other kids. The first time we got to sit on the grass and watch the big kids play. And realized one day that would be us. The first day taught us something, that the people who love you will always be waiting at the gate. If this video brought you back a memory that you haven't thought about in years, that's why I'm here. Please consider subscribing. It helps me more than you know. I post a new story every week. Another memory we haven't visited in years. I'm Danny. I don't post content. I post feelings. And I'll see you in the next memory.